Science education, fitness too. Molecular Mom's got it all for you.
Hi, everyone. This is Amanda Natalizio for our next episode of Molecular Mom. Today I have with me Kristen Kehrer. She is the founder of Data Moves Me. And I thought it was really great when I reached out to her to see if she would be willing to do a little interview for Molecular Mom. Because she is a data scientist, and most of the women that I've interviewed so far have been more on the biological or clinical diagnostics side, and being a data scientist and being more into the mathematics side, which is not my specialty at all. And I've shared with people before, I don't even know my multiplication tables, so that's where I'm at on math. So Kristen was a LinkedIn top voices of 2018. So that's pretty cool. She's had some big publicity for that on that social media and professional platform. So Kristen, I'll let you sort of take it from here. Just give us an idea about how you got into data science, a little bit about your education, and what motivated you to strike out on your own and open Data Moves Me, or your LLC that you're the founder of.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So that's pretty broad, but we can, yeah. So, I went to university for mathematics. And honestly, it was at the suggestion of my mother. My parents assumed that that universities probably don't get too many applicants for mathematics majors. And I was actually but not the best high school student. I, would skip class, and I got in some trouble, and my mom was like, well, let's apply for math, and I bet your odds will be better. So I went to university and absolutely fell in love with math. Like, it is just a beautiful language, and nothing like, I think that there should be a bathroom book for 3-line proofs, because there just should. That's weird. We can probably edit that out, or not. And so I finished my bachelor's degree in mathematics in 3 years, because I had absolutely fallen in love, and just took courses year round. And then after that, I honestly got a little lost, and got in some trouble. And I came out of that, and I started working for Coldwell Banker residential brokerage, doing sort of financy things, taking care of escrow, paying commissions and stuff like that. And then the housing bubble burst in 2008, and it was very clear that I was probably going to lose my job. And at the same time, I had been taking courses for my master's degree in statistics part-time, and Coldwell Banker said that they weren't going to give me tuition reimbursement anymore. And my professor said, hey, would you like a full ride and a stipend to be a TA? And I was like, yes, I would. And I packed up my stuff, and I moved to Worcester.
Worcester.
Got my Worcester, Massachusetts. Right? So I got my master's in statistics from WPI. And at that point, it was that, I was in this job at Coldwell Banker, where I wasn't making a ton of money, and I knew that statistics would be lucrative. Like, I could see statistics positions statistician positions posted, and I just wasn't sure how to move my career forward without doing something, because I had taken a couple years off, doing who knows what, and then found myself in this job where I was making like 40 grand a year, and was like, oh, this can't be it,
Right.
So I got my master's degree in stats, and I, was recruited to work for a utility in Massachusetts. And if this is too much information, just let me know. I'll speed it up.
No.
But I immediately got to work on really interesting problems. So I was building neural net models to determine, to forecast what the peak load was expected to be. So it was, I built like 72 models because it was an hourly model. So there was a model I built for each hour, and it was 3 different geographic locations. And there were all these inputs, the temperature, dew point, stuff. And so and I was doing a lot of time series analysis as well, like regular time series models to forecast sales, number of customers, gas, electricity. But the neural nets was sort of it was like a really cool thing to be able to put on my resume, and I'm still able to like talk about that project today, and people are like, ooh, because neural nets are like a really sexy algorithm at the moment, even though they can be outperformed by other algorithms, unless you're doing some like it depends on the use case or whatever, but like neural nets are not always like the go-to. And so there I realized I was pigeonholed into sort of this like forecasting. Like I was working on really interesting stuff, but my scope was small. I found that analytics was like a hot topic. And so it was more general. It wasn't going to be as statistically rigorous as what I was currently doing, but again, they were making more money. So I moved into the healthcare field, working for a company that was called Silverlink. It's now WellTalk, or a WellTalk company, and was doing, again, really interesting problems, or at least stuff that I find interesting. So it was like, motivating people to get their colorectal cancer screenings, or looking at if we could motivate people to be adherent on their medications, and doing some work with diabetes. And then other projects were like, can we, if people left this insurance company, could we win them back? And so I had built like a logistic regression model around that. And again, that's a project that I'm still able to talk to today, because it's like a really just, I don't know, people are just like interested in data. And if you've done real world projects and you can speak to them, people want to hear about it. And so, I then moved to Vistaprint and got into the e-commerce space. And that's sort of where the rest of my career in industry was spent. Not at Vistaprint, but in the e-commerce space. And, Vistaprint had paid maternity leave. That's where I had both of my kids. And then I was laid off right after I had, after my second child, a week and a half after I got back from maternity leave, I was laid off. There was like 180 people laid off. So I wasn't like targeted or anything, but I got caught up in that and got an amazing job at Constant Contact. And that's an email marketing platform. And because I had access to, I now had free email marketing, and somebody had reached out to me and they were like, you should start a blog. And I was like, I actually saw them being, active on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, what are you, like the LinkedIn social person now? And they were like, you should write a blog article. And so I did. And I found it, just so incredibly fun to share my thoughts and the work that I've done with the community. And then I just started building an email list, because I still, I no longer work for Constant Contact, but I still have email marketing that I can use. And so I started Data Moves Me. I have a resume course to help data scientists effectively market themselves for data science positions, because I had seen a lot of resumes, and I've done some hiring and some interviewing, and there's like a lot of, it's just not, there's a lot of people who can use help in that area. And then yeah,
So
like,
like with resume building, right?
yeah. So building up your resume. And so, yeah, the last year has been a little crazy. I've done a lot of speaking and yeah, just like really enjoying the ride. And then just like 3 months ago, I left Constant Contact, and I'm able to work full time from home. And I'm going to be teaching a course for the UC Berkeley Extension School, Intro to Data Science. So that's going to be super new and fun and
Yeah.
interesting.
New challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to hear, your progression, and like in my field, it's kind of, you make these baby steps into different fields. But for you, being in mathematics and data analysis, going from healthcare to e-commerce, so like how you can apply your knowledge set across all of these different markets is really cool. That's not something that, like, when you get a PhD in genetics, you're pretty much going to do genetics the rest of your life. What you want to do, but you're not really going to completely hot fields. I'm not going to go, into banking or something. I know there
That's
are PhDs that
interesting.
do
I had
that,
never
but
thought about it that way. And I mean, part of it too was like my job at Silverlink that I got, I had, I literally like got an offer on site. I was unhappy with, so like I said, the scope of the work that I was doing was narrow, but more importantly, it was like part union, like the people who actually work the electric lines were union, and so the company was having difficulty coming to a contract with the union, and then so all of a sudden it was like, in addition to my 40 hours a week, I was going to have to start, like, in addition to that, I was going to have to start learning how to do some of the union jobs in case they couldn't come to an agreement. And I was like, oh, no.
Yeah,
But at the time, analytics has changed, and data science has changed a ton over the last 9 years. And, at the time, like, it was just, you could walk in somewhere and have a good interview, and they're like, so do you have any other questions? And I'm like, I don't know, make me an offer, I'll take it. And I just like, like that was literally what I said, and they gave me an offer.
right.
And I started there 2 weeks later. It was also a smaller company, which, so of course, like larger companies are a little bit more, they have a little bit more process than that. But I also think it was like a sign of the times. There wasn't a ton of people that were doing analytics. I mean, there are, like, obviously there are people who are, well known in the data science community that have been doing this for 20 years. But, the number of companies that have decided that analytics is important, that want to make it a focus, and stuff 8 years ago, like, there just wasn't as many people doing this as there are that are trying to get into it now.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, your career track, like I said, is really interesting to me. So, with all of your experience and successes, if you could give one piece of advice to the women out there that are looking at getting into data science, what would that main piece of advice be, do you think?
So I'm actually writing a book with a friend, Mothers of Data Science. And so it's not out yet, but it's something that I've given a lot of thought to, right? And it's very different based on where you are. Like, I'm lucky to be in an area that is quite progressive. So a lot of the like bro culture, I haven't had to deal with and I know it exists, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know it exists. And as a data scientist, you're very often on like all male teams. I mean, there have been like definitely things that I've had to deal with. And I think like the biggest thing that I'd want people to know is that, um, if you just keep showing up and you just keep, you eventually become more confident. Like the amount of time it takes you to write an email becomes shorter, and you get more confident in your code, and you start to get confidence, and then once you have that confidence, you can sort of harness your voice, like we talk a lot about women not having as much of a voice, but I feel like at this point in my career, I absolutely do have a voice, and I use it, and I'm vocal. And I think that, you know, not that everyone wants to get there. Not everybody is like as much of a extrovert as I am, but for the women who are just feeling the anxiety, I think it is, different for a woman in industry than it is for a man. And I think that there's like some social constructs that, lend and end up putting us in a position where we are more likely to feel that anxiety and, stress about certain things, especially where you have to balance, being a mom and working and like the opinions of other people. It's just that like my life has gotten easier as it has progressed, and like I have a voice today, and it's very it's loud, and I don't worry about sort of like the repercussions either, because I have options, and so it's like your first job out of school might suck. And like maybe they, have a crazy dress code and things are like backwards. But if you get some experience, you can absolutely decide what your values are in terms of like the culture and everything moving forward. And like, you don't have to stay at the same job. And
You build on it.
yeah, you can absolutely build on it, and you can get to a point where your life is very comfortable.
Okay, great. Well, I would love to interview again, maybe touch on some other topics in the future. But for now, I just want to thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. It was very interesting to hear your story. So thanks, everyone, for joining us on this episode. And I will see you for our next episode of Molecular Mom.
Okay, thank you.
Science education, fitness too. Molecular Mom's got it all for you.